Hello there everybody, and welcome to this feature presentation on YouTube. I am King Mac, your hamburger pal. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to enjoy a hot fresh cheeseburger along with some delicious golden french fries, a tasty milkshake, and a nice soft drink. Also be sure to grab some hot buttery popcorn while you're at it as you enjoy this episode of TTBurger Game Reviews on YouTube.
Welcome back everybody, you are watching TTBurger Game Reviews here on YouTube and I am your host Tony. We're back with more game reviews here, regular game reviews here as we're inching closer to that 300th episode 288. Today, part 1 of 3 parts. Today we're going to talk about that popular Ubisoft character that started off in the mid-90s, 1995 when the Atari Jaguar was ported to a bunch of different consoles around that time. I'm talking about Rayman, the video character with no limbs, no arms or legs, became popular with video games, 3 main games, the Rayman Rabbit franchise, the reboot series, Rayman the animated series starring Billy West, and more. Look at the 3 original games here for this episode here. It's going to be a big one here because part 1 we have Rayman. Part 2, Rayman 2, Revolution for the PlayStation 2. And Part 3, Rayman 3, Hoodlum Havoc. And I know there's some Origins and Rayman Rabbids and Rayman Arena and stuff, but I'm not looking at those. I want to focus on the main ones here. But we're going to start off with this one right here. You can find the long box. Hey, it's worth it here. And it's in 2 variety of long boxes. The rigid plastic one and the Saturn-like one. And here we are. We're going to take a look at Rayman for the PlayStation. Released first in the Atari Jaguar, then ported to the PlayStation, PC, Sega Saturn, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, as well as Rayman Advance, and more, was on September 1st, 1995. Now, the first Rayman, I thought it was a good game, but more like just okay. I know it's a fun, cartoony side-scroller with a character that would become popular after this game here, but the problems do somewhat affect the game, not so bad. It's not going to get a super high score, but it'll be getting a decent score at the end. What I really enjoy about Rayman is the big variety in the levels and the enemies. Each one you go to has its own type of theme, like forest and music, and all with their own types of enemies, no repeats or anything. Also, the cool feature is Rayman can stick his tongue out and scare certain enemies, which is funny, but you really use it though. Now, my least favorite part of the game is the difficulty. Rayman may look bright and colorful, but under that colorful paint is one tough cheeseburger of a game. I tried to get as far as I could. I was only able to get up to Bandland, the second level of that world. I mean, I could have used cheat codes, but I did not want to cheat because I want to try to get as far as I could without cheating. But this is a really hard game, just to let you all know. One of the hardest platformers ever, so be warned there. Now, let's get talking about Rayman here. We start with this magician telling us the story of Rayman. Rayman lives on this planet where things are great and harmony thanks to the great Protoon. Then the evil Mr. Dark steals the Protoon, which causes the Electoons that maintain peace and harmony to scare all throughout the planet. Then, Batilla the Fairy, a guardian of the Protoon, battles Mr. Dark to get back to Protoon, and the Electoons was defeated and it was no match for Mr. Dark. So now we need a hero. We need Rayman to go and find the Electoons. They're locked up in cages all throughout the planet, and free the great Protoon and defeat the evil Mr. Dark. With the help of Batilla the Fairy, he will need all his strength and powers to do this. Story is good, not much, but it works for a 2D platformer. Rayman has good graphics for a PlayStation game, bright and colorful and cartoony like a Saturday morning cartoon. Rayman looks very detailed, no limbs for him, but it makes him very creative and original looking. The enemy models, there is a huge variety in each of them, and each one you go to has different enemies. No repeats from other levels, which is what most platformers are like nowadays, and it should take lessons from Rayman. The environments are nice and colorful and positive looking. Yeah, I say that because they're bright and colorful, even the later ones that get darker have a positive feel to them. Cutscenes are okay, on par with a lot of 2D anime games, nothing wrong with that, nothing bad or good. Frame rate is smooth, which I'm not surprised here since it's a 2D platformer. The Electoons look good, Batilla the Fairy fits the game too, and Mr. Dark, Evil Darker, is dark and freaky. Art editorial department for Rayman shines here. The voice acting, not much voice acting, but the small lines and the gibberish fit the game. There's not much voice acting here, but what do you expect? Music, I really enjoyed some of the best music in a video game here. Most of it is calming, peaceful. Some of the music gets rocking and rolling crazy, but hey, it adds variety to the music. Rayman barely talks, but he grunts and everything. The enemies have their grunts and bluffs too. They can get a little annoying, but I've heard worse, believe me. Sometimes there is no music, you hear atmospheric sounds that add realism to the colorful cartoony world. And I love the death song when you die. It's funny hearing it, and some funny tunes there as well. Gameplay departments where Rayman kind of falls short due to the difficulty. Now I know games should not be too easy here, but it gets pretty difficult after the first few levels. I'm not bashing the game for it being hard or anything, it's just it will turn off certain gamers is what I mean. But we need to talk more about the gameplay itself. Like I said, it's a 2D side-scrolling platform where you maintain the main goal is to not only beat the level, but rescue the Electoons trapped in the cages throughout each level. To free some of the Electoons, it requires Rayman to go back to certain levels after he gets certain abilities from Batilla the Fairy. Freeing all Electoons will be mandatory to get the true ending. These abilities include punching, hanging, swinging with your fist, running faster, and the helicopter hair. But these abilities, some of them come way too late in the game when you need them earlier to help you with the levels. Before Rayman gets the ability to punch, all he has is that stick your tongue out and scare enemies and stuff, but you really need it. One cool thing is Rayman can punch plums off vines and use them to throw across water. That is really cool to punch plums. The developers must have really loved plums because you punch a lot of plums in the game. Rayman also cannot swim. If he falls in the water, he dies instantly. You can find powers for certain abilities, like your fist punch, it gets maxed up, ready to punch those motherfucking enemies. But every time you die, you lose some of the power up. Sometimes you find yourself going back to the early levels to get more lives and more powers for Rayman. You have gems to collect, which are like coins. Get 100 of them, get an extra life. In the levels, you can find the Magician, where you given 10 gems. You can play the bonus minigame, collect the number of gems in the timeline to get an extra life. The boss fights are intense. It requires you to be quick on your feet, and they are tough for sure. Controls are simple, just punch and jump and move and more. I cannot get far in the game. I tried, I really did, but this is on me. I suck at the game, and I know I complain about the difficulty. I know it's my fault, but I suck at it. But some of these problems with the difficulty would affect anyone, I'm sure. I made it to the second level in Bandland, and it was tough due to the slippery small platforms you had to jump on, and you die a lot. So much, and there are hazards in levels that can kill easily, and if you're not careful, you'll die. Now, I should mention this game was ported to different consoles after its initial release on the Atari Jaguar. I also played a few versions of Rayman aside from the PlayStation version, which is the go-to version. I also played the PC and Gameboy Advance version called Rayman Advance, and PC and PlayStation version are similar. Rayman Advance was terrible, awful port with awful sound effects and music, and the game toned down the difficulty where it was way too easy now, and other awkward changes as well. I heard the Jaguar version is good, and the Saturn version is on par with the PlayStation version and the PC version. And before we can go to the final score, let's go to our TTBurger Pros and Cons chart. TTBurger Pros: Rayman is a memorable character that made his debut in this game, good platforming elements, graphics are bright and colorful, excellent music and voice acting. Rayman's powers and abilities that he unlocks are fun to use, big variety in the levels with different enemy variety, boss fights are intense, Electoons are interesting characters, Rayman can scare enemies by sticking his tongue out, Rayman can punch plums off vines and ride on them in the water, and hey, a magician tells a story in the game, that's pretty cool, and the magician minigame in each level is fun. The TTBurger Cons here now, the game is really difficult where you'll quit in frustration. The game gets difficult in the first world, you lose lives easy, which require you to go back to the early levels just to get extra lives and one-ups and more. The abilities Rayman gains, while fun, some cool, but they come way too late in the game, like running faster and the helicopter hair. Backtracking to previous levels can be annoying to free more Electoons with the new abilities to reach certain areas. The platforming can be a bit tricky and frustrating, especially with the slippery platforms where you slide all over the place. Rayman does not get an attack right away, except for sticking his tongue out, which can only scare certain enemies. Rayman cannot swim for the life of him, which results in instant death where he drowns in the water. The Gameboy Advance version titled Rayman Advance is an awful port due to the toned down difficulty and compressed sound and graphics and more. I haven't played the other ports, so I can't say anything about that aside from like the PC version, stuff like that, but it is a fun game overall. Rayman is a fun game overall. Just know that difficulty will turn off a lot of gamers and some of the other problems too, but this game should still be worth checking out. I give Rayman a 7 out of 10. It's the best score I can give it. It's a fun game, just be warned, it's got problems, but it's still worth checking out for sure. And that's it for this episode of TTBurger Game Reviews, episode 288, part 1 of 3 of my Rayman series review. Stay tuned, we're going to dive into the first 3D Rayman game titled Rayman 2 Revolution. That was known as Rayman 2 The Great Escape on the other platforms, but here we got the PlayStation 2 version called Rayman 2 Revolution, which is supposedly the best version of the bunch. Is it or is it not? Find out next, which all I gotta say is Tony, peacing out, have a good day, and see you all in my review of Rayman 2 Revolution. Take care, everybody. Everything's about quantity. Ironically, we feed our minds.